Hey folks, hey Sheljakant, hey Abhilasha, everyone, good evening on this Wednesday evening. We are deciding on going on a low-level design, mock interview. And today we have with us Arun Goel. Arun is a software engineer at Atlassian. Hey Arun, would you like to, say hi to the audience?
Yeah, hey everyone. So my name is Arun Goel. I am working as a software engineer in Atlassian. Before this, I had completed my graduation from DTU, and this has been a great opportunity where I've learned a lot about low-level design and high-level design. Of course, Gaurav has been a really great support in helping all of us. So thanks, Gaurav, for inviting.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for that, Arun. So the agenda of today is that we are going to be doing a low-level design interview in which we are going to be taking a very specific question, which is Make My Trip. So this kind of an app is a booking app where you can book a ticket in a bus, book a ticket in a train also. And I think Make My Trip in general wants to handle everything end to end when it comes to your trip or your, whether that is your business trip or your leisure trip. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to focus on the low level design of this, which means there are going to be some components that we want to code out, and we are going to be thinking close to how a software engineer will be doing this, not necessarily how a software architect will be doing this. Okay, so
Okay, okay.
that's the agenda. Before we just start, I would like to have a look at what kind of questions are being asked on the chat, just so that we have a rough idea of who our audience is and what is the expectation. So, guys, there's a link on Slido. I mean, in the description, that's a Slido link. Please post your questions only on the Slido link, because over here the benefit is if you have the same question, you can upvote it and it goes on top. On top of that, like the Slido questions stay forever. While over here on chat, I'll just be seeing a lot of questions fly up on top. Okay, we can also make it interactive. We can take polls on Slido. We can, ask you for your opinion there. So it's much better, much more interactive. Please go there. I've shared the link in the chat and also it's in the description. Okay, so let's see what the questions are like. Okay, I'll just share my screen so that everyone can see what the questions are. Okay, so the first question, which has the maximum number of upvotes, is a hotel with 10 rooms are available, and you have 100 customers who have selected the room and clicked on payment at the same time. How do we manage system concurrency? Okay. So you have few rooms where a lot of people want to book, and also there's an edge case that all of them made the payment, or they clicked on payment at least at the same time. How do you now, handle this kind of a situation? Okay, that's one type of question. The other one, which has been asked, which is on top, are rooms separately reserved for MMT, which is Make My Trip, I think. What do we do if a guest books rooms and all rooms of the category were booked offline, less techie hotels, data not synced online? Okay. So these are the kind of questions we're getting. Arun, I think, is there this question? I think we can handle right now, right? Like, are rooms
Yeah,
separately booked for reserved for MMT? This is more like a product question.
right. So I think this is something which a hotel has to see if they're booking something offline or somebody's coming on in their hotel and then they are booking that room for them. Then they can upload it or they can update their room status, right? So this will help people seeing that okay, right now this room is booked, and this will not create an issue afterwards.
Okay. Okay, so we can. That's a good point. So then, this is solved. How to get started with low-level design? And another question, which is pretty high up there, very similar, is how do we know which design pattern to use in LLD questions? Okay, actually they're separate. So how do you get started with low-level design? Arun, can you help us out here?
Yeah, sure. So, of course, low-level design is something which is important while coding. Code structure is really important. right? So what I would recommend is, first of all, start learning about few of the design patterns, basic design patterns. Let's say singleton pattern, facade pattern. Start using them while coding. See the system requirements, list down the requirements, go by this. I follow this approach wherein I make a use case diagram. Then using the use case diagram, I make a class diagram. Then using the class diagram, I'm able to see which design pattern can be helpful, and then I go for the code. And I try to make use of the same flow while coding for MakeMyTrip also right now.
Okay. And so, I mean, you work as a software engineer at Lajin. Is it similar to the real world, or the real world has quite a few differences? When we are developing software, is it something that we do, or is this more specific to interviews?
No, I feel this is something which we do within the company also. So what happens is your product manager actually comes with a set of requirements. Okay, so this needs to be built, right? Then what happens is the engineering team sits down and see if that is feasible or not. Then if it is feasible, then how do we make sure that we write the code in the right way so that later on, if somebody else also joins the team, he is also able to understand. And it helps in debugging also. It takes a less amount of time. It takes a less amount of storage also. So we have to optimize on everything. So interviews are definitely handled in slightly different manner, wherein we need to write just a pseudo code, or if we are able to make sure that the interviewer is understanding what I'm trying to do or what I'm trying to say, then it works. But what I feel is basics needs to be cleared, and more or less there is a lot of similarity in
Awesome.
interviews also. Yeah, and what we do in
Very
the
interesting.
company.
So you would say that preparing for your interviews will have the side effect of getting you prepared for your job also, or getting better
Yes.
at your job has the side effect that it will get you prepared for your interviews also.
Yes, it definitely helps, because what happens is if you can write code in the right way, because as you get more and more senior in your organization, let's say you become SD2, SD3, senior software engineer, then you become architect. So the main role of architect, if you know, is designing only, and coding could be done at lower levels also. But generally, architect is the person who designs, and of course, coding can be done easily. So, as in when we get senior, more of designing happens and less of coding. And low level design is, of course, that's why really important for coding.
Very interesting. So this is something that I think as you get more and more senior, it becomes more and more relevant. Okay.
Sure.
There's also talk that okay, we'll get to this other question also, that what about low level design for freshers? Quite a few recently we had Aman come in, and a lot of the guests that we have had talk about low level design being asked to people fresh out of college. So
Yeah.
maybe the level of low level design questions is much lesser over there. Is that
Yeah.
is that fair to assume?
Yes. So actually, low-level design is something. If you see, OOPS is the main concept that is being used, right? How which things you need to make private, which things you need to make public, which function you need to have in which class. If you see it this way, this is a basic. This looks like a basic OOPS question. Now, definitely for somebody who is fresh out of college, we do not expect him to design as much as he can, as a SD2 or a senior software engineer can. But what we can expect is that he could be having good concepts in OOPS, right? Definitely the requirements are less, which we need to check in a fresh grad. But yeah, if he is having this great knowledge of low level design, I'm pretty sure he would be selected in any of the company, and he'll get better and better. So I would highly recommend low level design. People should focus on low level design, and this will definitely help them in competitive programming also. So if I tell you what happens in a competitive programming, you're given a question and then you solve it, which means you're given a requirement and then you solve it, right? Using, you make functions, you make classes, you choose your data structures, you make sure that okay, minimum time to store, minimum time to retrieve, less time complexity, less storage. The same thing happens in the company also, or the same thing happens in the low level design also. They give you a set of requirements and then you build the code.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this definitely helps.
Interesting. I actually, my first video in 2015
Mhm.
was actually inspired by this kind of thinking, that
Okay.
GitHub concurrency, um,
Mhm.
low-level design was not exactly the term that I knew, but I just knew that good software engineering is what we are looking for. So my first 7 videos were on how can you use, let's say, design patterns in computer programming or software engineering principles in computer programming. Very interesting. I don't know if I was ever able to practically use it. There were a few instances when I felt, wow, good thing I knew this, because a short story, personal story, which I think there was this contest on CodeChef, which was, the contest has no right or wrong answer. Only the best answer gets a score of 1, and the worst answer gets a score of 0. So it's a soft marking. So in that, I got a all India rank, or I think even world rank 3. So the reason that happened is because I was using this genetic algorithm, which is going to evolve and everything, and I had used all the cores in the computer. Like there were 4 cores that were available on the CodeChef processor, and I was using multi-threading, while nobody else till then on CodeChef had thought of that. So in that way, like the thinking was concurrency, thinking of how are you going to actually make this work in parallel. It's quite interesting to think of. Even as a computer programmer, it's a different software principle, and as a computer programmer, you like those kind of things. Awesome. So this is great. One final question, I think, before we start, is how do we know which design pattern to use in LLD questions? Is this something we'll see coming up now, or is there a particular technique or way, or do you need to know them beforehand? What is it like?
So my answer to this would be, first of all, this would come with practice. The more and more situations you would see, the more and more problems you will deal with, the more and more idea you will get. For example, singleton pattern. Let's take this example. So what is the use of singleton pattern? When do we use it? When we only want one occurrence to be made, right? So first of all, learning or maybe knowing what the requirement of the question is. Probably then we'll be able to answer that, okay, it would be wiser to use this singleton, this design pattern. But how would this be imbibed in you, right? This would come with practice, or maybe looking at systems, or maybe designing system by yourself. Designing a few patterns. For example, let's take any other example. For example, car parking. Okay, people might not know car parking design in India, but outside India, this is a big thing, because in malls there's huge parking. So now, if you see, car parking there should be only one instance of a car parking system. So there we can use singleton pattern, but people should try it. If somebody is new to learning low-level design, they can try it with any design pattern. And as and when they make or design it, they'll learn. They'll see the time complexity. They'll see the space complexity. They'll see why are we using it. So this will help. So more and more systems. Look at more and more systems. Practice yourself.
Okay, so you would suggest that try the things, then you'll be able to recognize the problems easier, and then you'll be able to fit the solutions easier.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That I think is great. I think in general also a lot of people have the same advice, that don't just read, do, and then see what happens. Okay.
Yep.
Kiran Nambiar is saying awesome, and then he's got the special emoji. Okay. Proud to work as a SD at MakeMyTrip. This is Somak Podar. He's working as a SD at MakeMyTrip, and seeing this live, the things I do. Okay, Somak, just to clarify, we are assuming on what are the things that might be happening. You are obviously doing it at a much deeper level. If someone says high-level design of Uber or high-level design of Atlassian, you don't actually design, or even low-level design we don't actually do it. Like this is going to be, but we are going to try. And some of the engineering principles that you have used are obviously really good. So it's a good moment. Okay. I think we can start. How to think during the LLD interview. I think you have mentioned that. How to handle concurrent booking scenario, and there are a few other specific ones which we will wait for during the interview. They'll get cleared. So many of these are really interesting. Yeah, I think we should just start with this. Okay. Anonymous has posted this. I'm a LLD. In short, please explain it to me. Please, jump back to the earlier part of the video. Arun has explained what LLD is. It's a it's a prerequisite to understanding this video, so I would suggest you actually jump back first. Okay, let's then start. Let's go for low level design of MakeMyTrip. Okay, so Arun, if you are designing a booking system, like even booking.com is very similar. So how would you go about designing a system which is generic enough to book flights, book buses, book hotels? So how would you design a system like this, and what are the key components that you'll see? Like, yeah, who are the users? What's going to happen?
Okay. So first of all, let's take flight booking feature of MakeMyTrip, right?
Okay.
So if we see customers, first of all, let's talk about customers. Customers should be able to see the flights for a given date, source and destination, right?
Okay.
Then customers should be able to reserve the tickets for the flight. Then, so let's write it down. Okay. Okay. Then, okay. Yeah. I hope everyone is able to see. So customers. So if we talk about customers, customers should be able to see the flights for a given date, source and destination. Like I said, they should be able to reserve the tickets. Then customers should be able to see which seats are booked, right, and which are left. Customers should be able to, I feel, cancel the reservation also. Then there are different types of seats also, if I'm correct, in an airline, which can be booked, right? Then
That's
there should be
yeah.
an, yeah, right.
Yeah,
Then
yeah. You
I
can have
feel that,
an excel seat, and you can have that an economy seat. Maybe you have business class also. So yeah.
yeah. Then admin. There's of course the admin also who can add a flight to the schedule. Then admin can also cancel the flight like we see, and then the refund is generated for all the customers, right? So I feel these should be the requirements of the flight booking feature uh, of the MakeMyTrip. And I feel booking a hotel or booking a railway ticket are very, very similar to this. These are just additional features. And if we can design this, I feel others also could be designed on the similar lines.
Okay. So that's great. You're basically booking. I mean, it's. I don't even know whether you're booking an event or something, but you're booking at a very high level concept a room, like a room
Yeah,
in a flight, or
right.
something like a layout or something like that. Okay, great. Yeah, totally agree with you. If you can book
Okay.
some seat in some layout, that's what we want.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
now that you have a set of customers, let us
Right.
assume that adding a flight or adding a hotel and all that is something that we don't want to get into too much detail on. We assume that
Mhm.
flights exist. We assume that those flights have a particular layout set up by the airline only, and it has been given to us and it's been set up. Uh, what are the kind of things that you are looking to do with customers? Like, what are the things exactly that they should be able to do when it comes to Make My Trip?
Okay. So what I call this is a use case diagram, right? So what we can do is we can start making the use case diagram.
Okay. You call this a use
Okay.
case diagram, or is it like UML calls this a use case diagram?
We can call it a use case diagram where we can list down all the actors actually, and we can
Yeah,
see
yeah.
what all their activities are, right? So for
Makes
example,
sense.
let's start with customer. So if we see a customer can uh, fetch flights for a particular date, source and destination, right? This is one of the activity which a customer can do. Then the second thing is customer is able to reserve a ticket. So reserve a ticket. Then the third thing is customers should be able to see which seats are booked and which are left, right? And they can cancel the reservation. So cancel the reservation, right? Then like we discussed in the question, we are having different types of seats also. So what we can do is we can make a enum wherein seats, what are the types? Let's say one is a regular type. Other one is, let's say, extra legroom. And the third one, let's say, an emergency exit. So these are the different types of seats. So my first actor was a customer, right? And we also discussed about the admin, right? So admin should be able to add a flight to the schedule, and the admin should be able to cancel the flight, and of course the refund will be generated for all the customers, like we have seen, right?
Right.
So the second actor can be admin, right?
Okay.
So if we talk about admin should be able to add a flight. And the second one is cancel the flight. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, Arun, let's this is very clear and this is great. Just to take one step, customers are able to do a few things. One is they're able to fetch flights for a particular date, source, and destination. Meaning, I want to book it for 5th of September, Mumbai to New York. Okay. Now you're telling me that you give me a source, you give me a destination, which makes sense. I mean, where you're going to go is normally known,
right?
And what date. That also actually makes sense. So this is reasonable. You can reserve a ticket, which means once I tell you the flights, and if I show you a particular seating arrangement or the number of tickets left, you will reserve a seat. I am assuming there's payment also taken care of over here.
Yes.
You can also cancel reservation. This is much more painful in real life than in code, but you get some money back, or even if you don't get money back, at least you can claim that it's not, I'm not going. Now, okay, if you have a regular seat, extra legroom, and emergency exit. Okay, so these make sense again. You have different types of seats. Basically, you have something on the front seat also usually is charged differently.
Yeah.
Okay, and then now we are going into admin side, which is interesting. You have adding a flight, and you have also added canceling the flight. So this is like it's not air traffic control, but it's a proper admin. Yeah. Okay. So this is of course MakeMyTrip. So okay. Till now, I think everyone has understood. In case you don't understand, guys, anything, please feel free to post it on the Slido link. Like we said, at the end of this, we will be looking into what the doubts are. Sorry, Arun, please go ahead.
Okay. So, looking at all of this, these are the actors, right? There is one more actor, which is the system itself. So, system would be able to fetch all the flights, right? Since admin is able to add a flight, so system should be able to add that flight into the database also. So, there should be one more actor if we see system, and system should also be able to do a few things, right?
Okay.
So, I think I don't have space here.
System, okay. What does this system do? It can add a flight, but if system can add a flight, okay.
So basically, the admin is adding, but system will store all of that, right?
Right. Yeah, it has a database, I guess.
Second is if the customer is asking for a flights on a certain date with certain source and destination, the system will retrieve all that, will give you only the flights which you have demanded for.
Okay.
So this is something which system would do.
This is interesting. What you're, I think what you're getting to is you have a system actor who gives a certain number of APIs, which are basically like behaviors. It gives you some things, and then the user or the admin can consume those APIs and
Yes.
Okay, they can do something with that data and do their behaviors in turn. Okay, that's an interesting idea. Okay, so you have a system. System maybe over here. And what can this system do?
So this system can probably fetch all the flights.
Okay. Right? Fetch flights. Then, yeah, that makes sense.
Then second thing is this system fixes the seat for the particular customer.
Okay.
Then
Okay. Reserve
third
seat.
one, then
Also,
this
I
cancel.
just said fixed seat. Okay. Okay. It cancels also.
Yeah, it cancels also. And if the admin adds a flight, this flight is added by the system itself into the database.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the admin adds a flight, and then we can do that. So let's say cancel booking. Okay.
Yes.
That's quite a few requirements. This is, I think, a detailed booking system. All we have to do if you want to book a bus is just say, instead of fetch flights, you do fetch buses.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the same date, source and destination. Again, the same thing happens.
Same goes for fetch hotels in a particular area. Then a person can go and check out each and every hotel, how many rooms are left, how many book a particular room. This is very similar to how we are booking an airline. We get a list of flights. A person selects on the basis of their budget or timing or whatever filters they want, non-stop or few stops if they want. They select the flight and then they select the seat, then they book it.
Okay. So something like, you are saying that these are parameters which can be added to. So
Yeah,
maybe
these
they
are
that you search
right.
parameters.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's pretty good. Fine. So how would you go about now? What would be your next step? We have identified what the requirements are.
Yeah.
Uh,
So if we look at this is what we call as a use case diagram. Now, by looking at the use case diagram, we'll build a class diagram.
okay, let's
Okay.
do that in the next page. Okay.
Okay. How do I go to the next page?
I think there's this icon over here on top. Oh, we are in 3 out
Okay.
of 3. I should go to 2 out of 3. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. 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 Okay. I'm able to write.
Perfect.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yes,
I'm
this
able to write.
class
Okay.
diagram is
So
great.
yes. So I'll have a look at the use case diagram, and using that I'll make the class diagram. Okay.
Huh.
Now.
Okay, so you have the class diagram somewhere out here.
No, I'll start writing. I'll make the class diagram here.
Okay.
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 So first of all, like we had, first is the customer, and the other one is the admin.
Okay. So I'll just do this at
Okay.
so that our viewers can
So
see
what all
this.
things a customer has?
Customers can fetch a flight for a particular
Right.
date, source, and they can reserve a ticket. So they might have a set of tickets. Is
But
that? Yeah, but
yes. So
a detail
first
like,
thing
oh,
is
sorry, what is the state? Yeah.
yes. So a customer will definitely have a name,
Yeah.
an email ID, uh, or a different unique identifier. Let's give it simple ID. Okay.
Okay.
So it will have an ID of type string. So in a class diagram, we mention all the data members and the data functions which a actor is going to have. Okay. So first
Okay.
thing is ID. It is a data member which it will have. Okay. Next thing can be name, and of course this will also be a string. The second thing could be email. Let's say I know these are metadata, but this everyone will have, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
you're now going for data which is, let's say, specific to a customer. You're storing state
Yes.
for that customer. What are
Yes.
the variables?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And one last thing, a user or a customer will always have an instance of the system, because that's how he's gonna see things. He's gonna see flights. He's gonna click on a seat and then fix a ticket, fix a seat actually. So it will always have a system
Okay. Okay.
instance of system actually. Okay. What are things a customer could do? A customer, like we discussed, could fix a seat. So let's give it a separator here. So I believe these all could be the data members. Now we are going to the data functions. Now, looking at the use case diagram, if you see, a customer is able to fix a seat, okay,
Yeah.
then he's able to cancel the booking.
Okay.
Right? So
yes, they are able to fix a seat, which means reserve a ticket that I
right,
want to
reserve a
book.
ticket.
Okay.
Yes.
So
They
you
are able
might
to
want to
cancel
pass
the
in.
reserve.
Yeah. No, to fix a seat, like
Mhm.
how do you define which flight are you fixing a seat for? Do you mention the flight? Do you mention that I mean, if you're
Yes.
calling a user fixed seat, that means the user is known. So maybe
Yes.
you need to pass in some param.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, definitely. We're going to talk about it now. So
Okay.
now when a user is able to fix a seat, how is he able to fix the seat? He will definitely have a flight selected, right? So what we can do is we will have a flight. Let's name it flight only. And the second could be he would select a particular seat, right?
Yeah.
So he would have a seat, and let's give it seat only. We'll have to make a seat type here now,
Right.
okay?
Right.
Because in the question it is mentioned that there are different types of seats also available,
Seats.
right? So these are things, and what would it return? What would be the return time? These could be the params. What would be the return time? Now, if you
If you
see a
fix a
seat,
seat, you
it
should
would be
get
a
a ticket,
boolean.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, you will get a ticket, and of course, it could be a boolean variable that okay, it is booked or not. So for
Yeah.
now, I am taking that okay. Let's say it's just a boolean. Ticket is auto generated. Let's just give it a boolean that is it booked or not, just
Okay.
for
Okay.
simplicity.
Makes sense. Okay. Like a ticket ID,
So
boolean, all three go. Yeah.
yes.
So
Then
you're able to
second
return
thing
seats.
would be
Uh-huh.
yes. Second thing would be a person should be able to cancel the booking.
Yeah.
So he
Cancellation is
would have a particular flight in that.
yeah.
So a param could be flight,
Okay.
and this would also return a boolean. Is your flight cancelled or not? If yes, yes. No, no.
Okay.
This could
So
also
what we
be
are
a
doing
boolean.
now is
Mhm.
we are just sending flight. We are not sending seat because we know that this user has only one seat on the in the
Yeah,
booking. In
it
fact,
could be any number of seats. It could be any number of seats, but I believe a aircraft or a flight would have, let's say, 50 seats. So we can go and see which all seats they are having, right? Because a seat would belong to a particular user,
right.
customer. So we
Arun, what if I book 3 seats and I want to
Mhm.
cancel just 2?
In that case we'll have to pass the seat.
We'll have to pass this. Okay. Fine. We can assume that you are going to make a total cancellation and then you have to book the remaining. That can also be assumed, or we can just pass in seat. Either case, we are fine. Yeah.
Right.
What happens
Okay.
if you have to book a range of seats? Like I want to book from seat number 30 A to 30F, all 6 seats in that row.
So in that case, here, if you see, we'll get a array of seats, not just one seat. Here you can see I've
Okay.
taken one seat, but
Would you?
what we can do is
Uh,
we can have a array of seat
okay. Would you
sort of this.
choose an array, or like, because with an array you will need some sort of maybe atomicity? Uh, would you go for that, or would you go for 6 seats, 6 requests?
Okay. So what we can do is in this, let's say here again the same question exists. What about concurrency? If somebody has already booked the seat while I'm selecting and then going.
Yeah.
So since it involves money of people, which is very critical, right?
Okay.
So what I can do is what we can do is we can go with uh, first of all, let's say if somebody wants to book all the consecutive seats, if somebody wants like that. So in that case, if any of the other seat is booked, let's say third number seat is already booked. So what we can do is we can return false. We'll first go, we'll check if all these 6 seats are available. If they're available, then we'll fix that. If they're not, then we'll have to return false, and we'll want user to again select the number of seats which you want to book. First case is this. This totally depends on the system requirements.
Makes sense. That's a concurrency issue. Yeah. That becomes a little more complex. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Second thing is, what we can do is, if a user wants to, 4 of them are unbooked and 2 of them are already booked while I was selecting. So I would select the 4. What I would do is I would return that, these 4 are booked and you need to select 2 more seats other than these 2 seats which you selected the previous time.
Okay.
So this totally depends on how the system wants us to behave for customers.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think roughly we have seen the trade-offs of what would happen. Most likely, you would go for one booking, and the booking would have multiple seats. And then, if there is any sort of contention in the ranges of one booking and another booking, then maybe you have some, you force the bookings to fall in the same node. Yeah, I mean, unless it's a music concert or a cricket match, it's highly unlikely that hundreds of thousands of people will be trying to book the same flight like at the same second. Yeah. So yeah, you can go that way also. Makes sense. Okay, so this is good. The user can fix flights, fix seats, reserve seats, and they can also cancel bookings. Okay.
Yes. Now we can talk about admin here.
Okay.
So again, admin. Let's build a box right here. Second thing is, admin would also have an ID, right?
Yes.
It would also have a name. Admin would also have a name. Email also it would have. This would also be string. And I feel he will also have an instance of the same system. But the things would be different, of course, which will depend on, let's say, ID or email, which can depend on system. Admin folks can have a different set of IDs. They could be configured with different features or functionalities, but they would also have an instance of system, right?
Okay.
I think these should be the data members. We can move on to the data functions. But looking at it, what I can see is all these 4 are redundant things, right?
Yeah.
So what we can do is, to have a better model, we can make a class user who would have all these 4 fields.
Okay.
And this user class could be extended by both these classes.
Okay.
So this, so I want to tell people this is how it helps. This has made our things simpler. Class diagram. While building the class diagram, it makes things simpler. I analyzed that, if I make a user class and we can extend that for customer and admin.
Okay, so you have a user class which has an ID, name, email, system. Certain behaviors also, I guess, are taken care of by the user class. You can log in, you can register. Okay, that's interesting. One question So there's a question on the chat. Why do we have a system attribute as part of the customer? It's not being used in the class methods. So should we instead? I mean, I understand why you have it as as an attribute or as a variable, because you want to call system and tell it that please fix a seat for me. But if that is the case, then should we have it as a variable? Or should we have it as a global function which can be accessed by anybody? Like even in Java, you have static methods. Yeah.
So looking at it, so everyone should be able to access there should be only one instance of the system, like you are rightly said right now. Customer should be also able to access the same system. N number of customers should also be able to access the same system. And the admin should also be able to access the same system, right?
Correct.
Which means we only need one instance.
That's right.
So here comes the design pattern, singleton design pattern, which helps us doing this.
Okay. So
Okay.
this singleton, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that will solve the problem.
Yeah.
All of them having instance to this, all of them having a reference of that singleton instance is good. Okay, yeah, as we go ahead with the design, let's see if that can be converted to a class itself.
Right.
Right. So, okay, we have a user, we have customer, we have admin, and admins can do certain things. I guess they can add a flight or delete a flight. Maybe we can skip
Yes.
that part, Arun, because we are not focusing on the admin side of things. We are focusing just on customer.
Okay. That
Yeah,
would be great.
maybe we can try the system side of things.
Okay. So should we move on to the third page?
Yes, just to clarify with the people who are watching, guys, add a flight and cancel the flight is what our admin had in terms of capabilities. We are not focusing on that. You can always blow up the flight. I'm going to be put on the blacklist. No flights for Gaurav from now on. Okay. System. System can do three things: fetch flights, fix a seat, and cancel bookings.
Right.
Okay.
So
Let's see how we do that then.
can we move to the third page?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So system. So what all things would a system have? What all data members can a system have? First one is
Yeah.
the list of flights, which is
Okay.
very important, right?
Okay. That's true. Yeah.
So flights, and what would be the type? Let's keep it list for now. List of flight.
A list of flights.
Yeah. So in this case, I'll have to make a class flight also, which we will have to decide. Okay. Then, of course, like we had discussed, system should be able to fetch flights on the basis of source, destination, and date. Right. So
Right.
fetch flight should be one of the capabilities. It would have a source, type would be string, destination type would be string, and date, we can have a date type. And what it will return is the list of flights again. But of course, these would be the filtered set of flights from this.
Okay.
Okay, so list of flight. Then the second thing would be system will be able to fix the seat, right? So fix the seat. Now what it will get is an aircraft, actually, right? An aircraft.
Yeah.
And of course, which seat do we need to book? And this will again remove the problem of concurrency. What we can do is we can return a boolean. What front end can do using this boolean is, if the seat is booked, I'll return true, and front end can show the success, or congratulations, your seat has been booked. And if I return false, the system can show really sorry, or whatever, however the front end needs to handle that, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I mean, some sort of message would be useful.
yeah, some
There's
sort of
one question which is a little interesting. Arbish has an interesting question, which I think is very, very common. Instead of making an interface role and extending users, system and admin can implement them. So that's
yes,
also
they can.
Yeah, they can. Yeah. I guess system and admin. No, what you mean to say is customer and admin can
Customer.
implement it. Arbish. Yeah. So
Yes.
that can be done. You can make them implement it.
So
You're
what
looking
I
at,
feel like,
yeah.
so sorry for, but what we can do is, when do we use an interface?
Yeah,
When
exactly.
we have same function, but two different people are implementing differently.
Yes.
Here, things are separated out. They will have same data members and different functionalities, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
and the thing is, and the behaviors are the same. Like the user comes and logs in.
right.
The admin also comes and logs in. The user logs out, the admin also logs out. So many of the behaviors are the same. So in this case, using an interface will not be the right approach. You can make this in Java specifically. You can make this an abstract class, or you can, in case you're worried that user should not be created, should not have a user roaming about. But the behaviors are the same. So an interface here will be, in my opinion, wrong. You should have a class which is being extended, because the behaviors, the data members are the same, exact same. So admin is a user. Okay, that's a good point, Arun. I'll pat myself on the back here. Well done.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Getting back to the system, sorry for that detour.
Third thing would be adding a flight, right? So when an admin adds a flight, so the system adds a flight to its database, right? So adding a flight, and what it will get is a flight, right? And what we can do is, if that flight is successfully added in the database or not, so we can return again a boolean. And fourth one is canceling the flight. So like I said, admin could cancel the flight all over. So what the system will do, system will cancel the flight first of all, and then would generate refund. So right now we are not addressing refund, but this is what the system does actually. System itself generates a refund for all the customers who have booked that flight. So cancel the flight, and it would again get. And what we can do is we can give a boolean. I think these all things could be done by the system.
Right. If there are few people who are coming for the flight and it's going to be a loss-making flight, better to cancel it and send the plebs on some other flight. Yeah, sure.
And like we had discussed previously, a user was having an instance of system, right? So I'm not writing the functions again, but a user has an instance of system class. So this is how we can build the class diagram. And I'm not again writing the function, but user is extended by customer, and also again it is again extended by admin. So these are the relations which I'm showing using the arrows, right?
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. So you have like 4 classes till now. You have system, and then of course when you're coding, I guess you'll end up having many more classes, because flight is a flight, like you said, and a seat is another class. So
yes,
you never know what source and destination also are. Like they might be locations. Like, okay.
Right. So right now we are taking source and destination as just simple strings, but this could be really complex.
That's true. Yeah.
So now we need to decide what a flight is. We need to make what all things a flight would have, right? So let's make a class flight. Okay. So what I thought for the flight is, a flight would be on a particular date, of course. So it would have date. Okay. Second thing is, a aircraft would be used for a flight, right? It would go from place A to place B. So of course there would be an aircraft of type aircraft. Okay, then again we'll have to define aircraft there. There would be a start time of that flight. There would be an end time. Right now what we can think is they are just of type time, which is already there.
Okay, yeah. Some things are expected to be utility classes. Yeah, sure.
Yes. Then of course it will have a source, which is string, and destination.
Okay.
I believe a flight will always have these data members, right?
Yeah. Hopefully it will have a destination.
Yeah. Okay. So what other function could a flight have? Data function. Now one thing would be like the system was able to cancel the flight for customers, right? So cancel for customer could be a data function, and what it will have is a particular customer, right? For example, a customer wants to cancel a seat for himself, or a system wants to cancel the complete flight. This function could be used. So
Okay.
this will have a customer as a parameter, and this will return again a boolean, if is it cancelled successfully, or there was some issue with the database, or there was some issue with the functionality, whatever. So this could be a boolean.
Okay. You can cancel a for a customer. Maybe you can cancel a seat also. Like for that
Yes.
customer will get cancelled. Okay.
Yes. So
Okay.
this is what I feel could be for the flight. And now if you see, system is using flight here, list of flights. So a system will have, if you see, what could be the relation here? One system has so many flights, and one flight can belong to this system. So 1:n relationship would be formed here.
Okay.
1:n.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, every n number of flights have. After all, the system is a singleton class. Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Abhishek Jain is asking, is talking with Arbish without our permission, but I understand adding flights, different sources plus destination can be part of the system, but why is booking a flight or canceling a flight part of the system? Isn't that customer centric? So I think Abhishek, we had touched on this for a few minutes. We are taking certain operations that the system exposes, and then we are seeing how customers are manipulating or using that data, consuming those APIs exposed by the system to do things. So if you think in terms of a microservice, or if you think in terms of even actors, they don't directly tell the system, do this exactly for me. The system will probably expose one API used by both admin and flight and user and so on and so forth. So you have a set of core APIs which are being used by the high level classes. That's the idea.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Okay, so I think our class diagram is pretty much set. We have, you can you can cancel for customers. You can also add customers, I guess. Like add a seat in a flight.
Yeah.
Is that?
So a seat is always added in an aircraft actually.
Oh,
Right?
so it's not a flight.
Yeah. So
Okay,
because
okay. So
flight
you
is
have
having,
okay.
because each there would be certain aircrafts which would be used, right,
That
for
is
this flight.
that is
So
true.
that's
Okay.
why I thought of making a separate class aircraft, and seats would belong to that class. Seats would be
Okay.
there in that aircraft.
So for every flight, will you have a different instance of aircraft, or will you have the same instance of aircraft being used for multiple flights?
So a flight could be, if I talk in general, suppose there's a flight going from point A to point B. The system or the admin could, provide it with any aircraft, right? So that's why I thought of making it a separate class altogether. That okay, there would be a separate, and one aircraft will have a set of seats.
Right. No, my concern here is, what if you have a person who books a flight 747, okay,
Mhm.
seat 1A, and in the next flight, again, it's the same 747, seat 1A has been booked. Now we come and we say that, and the same customer has booked it, okay. So you say cancel for customer in a flight. How do you now find out which seat to cancel?
Okay.
Like,
So if
because
we see,
the seat is the same, it's in the same aircraft.
right, right. So a flight will have a particular aircraft being used for this time. So this aircraft cannot be booked for the same, for a different flight at the same time. This
That is true.
cannot be possible, right?
Oh, okay, okay. You have a start and end time. Okay, okay.
Right. So and now what will happen is this, that aircraft is having few seats. So suppose I want to cancel my seat for a particular flight. So what my system would do, it would go on the flight, it would fetch the aircraft. Since the aircraft is able to see which seat belongs to me, right? Because of course, since I've booked, so there would be a particular seat belonging to me. It would see, it would just cancel the seat, and would generate whatever the system wants to do after that.
Okay, let me put it another way. Let's say, Arun, you book seat number 1A on the same flight, Okay, I mean, you book it on a flight which is at 3 p.m. and I come and I say, book 1A for me for that same aircraft at 4 p.m. So now, how do you book that seat? Like, because you're booking it in the aircraft, how do you know that seat belongs to different people at different times? Shouldn't you do that in the flight? Shouldn't you add the seat for a flight instead of adding it in the aircraft? Maybe the seat booking can be in the aircraft, the layout can be fetched from the aircraft, but you are booking for a flight, not for an entire aircraft, right?
So each flight would have one instance or one aircraft only.
That is correct. So if you have, let's say, 50 flights for the same aircraft, pointing to the same aircraft, that can happen, right? We are having one aircraft having multiple flights.
One aircraft having multiple flights. Yeah, of course it can happen, but it
So
would at a different time.
at different times, okay.
Right.
If I'm booking a seat for 1A in an aircraft, seat number 1A for a particular aircraft, there is another flight with the same aircraft, and a person wants to book seat number 1A. How are you going to handle that?
So what we can do is this would be a separate instance with the same name, same things.
Okay,
Right?
okay. So every flight has its own instance of aircraft.
Right. Right.
Okay, that can be done.
Yeah. Now, if we talk about, we have talked about aircraft a lot, so let's just write it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So aircraft would have a set of seats, right? So what we can, since we have different types of seats also, so what we can do is we can keep a map, because seat always have an ID, right? So a aircraft has seats, and let's give it a unique identifier. Let's give it ID also. Okay. Now,
Okay,
a aircraft is able to book a seat or fix a seat. So this is one thing which a aircraft can do. I'm writing it here.
okay, okay, great.
Fix seat. What we'll get is a seat and a customer, right?
Okay,
Book it for this customer, and this would return a boolean. Is it fixed or not?
okay,
Okay. Second thing is we can add few seats in the aircraft, right? So add seat. What we'll get is a seat, right? And of course, getters and setters, I'm imagining they are there for each and every data member. Okay. Now,
makes
if you see aircraft, a flight has an instance of aircraft. So let's write that relation here. It has an instance of aircraft, right? Now, since we have talked about seat a lot, let's write it also. We need to make a seat class. I guess this would be the last class here. So what will a seat have? It will definitely have a type. Let's give it seat type. We'll make a enum having the type seat, right? It would have a ID string. A seat could be either it could be booked or not, right? So
yeah,
we can have this boolean is booked. If it is booked, then it will have a customer for sure. And if it's not booked, the customer field could be empty. So
maybe instead of is booked, we just put a customer field, and if it is null,
yeah,
then it is. Yeah.
yes, we can do that as well.
Okay.
This would be of type customer. And of course, each and every seat will have a different price, which could be given by system. For now, let's not write it. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, maybe the seat also doesn't want to know about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, maybe it might want to know. I'm not so sure. Maybe it doesn't want to know
No.
about that. Depending on the flight, it changes its price.
Hmm.
Makes sense. So that'll be in the ticket,
Yeah.
probably. Okay.
So, and I'm imagining there are getters and setters for each and every data member. And if you see, a seat belongs to a aircraft, and an
Yeah.
aircraft could have n number of seats. So again, there is one-to-many relationship between a seat and an aircraft,
Okay,
right? So
cool. So this is great. We have a use case diagram which was converted to a class diagram. Initially,
yeah,
we talked about customers and admins and then thought of condensing them into users. Certain behaviors are different, which is fixing a seat and canceling a seat, canceling a booking, which is different.
hmm,
We have then moved to uh, the the last part of the system, which is basically the system itself. It has a set of flights. It can fetch flights, fix a seat in a flight. It can also say add a flight, cancel a flight, bad
yeah,
weather, whatever. And then we have a flight itself. The class, you have defined it as a date when it is flying. When is this flight actually happening? So probably date time.
yeah,
You have, so why do we have date time? Why don't? Okay, yeah, maybe easier to search. Okay, that's a good idea.
yes,
So you have a start time and an end time. You have an aircraft which is completing this flight, a source and a destination. A flight can cancel for a customer a particular booking. We'll see how this works out in code. Um,
yeah,
and an aircraft has a map of seats, and each aircraft has an ID. That makes total sense. Also, you have seats which are of a type, so luxury, premium, private
yeah,
jet. Uh,
whatever.
yeah, then you have a customer who, if they have booked that seat, they own that seat. Maybe yeah, maybe in a flight we can have this kind of stuff like the seat, but it'll also give a quick search maybe. Okay, let's see that that works. You can fix a seat, you can add a seat, so you can pass in a seat over there. Great. Okay, this looks at a high level. This looks okay. Do you think
Hmm.
we should jump into code now?
Yeah. So this class diagram would help us build the code now.
So what you're doing at every step I'm seeing is you are, for building the class diagram, you reference the use case diagram.
Yeah.
For building for writing the code, you are going to be referencing the. It seems like you are going
Class
to be
diagram.
referencing the diagram. Okay.
Yeah. Class diagram I would be referencing.
Okay, that
So
makes sense. So does this help you think through things better? Does it speed up your? Okay, the proof will be in the pudding. Let's see if you can
yeah.
code faster. Sure,
Okay.
sure. So, what I'll do then is I'll stop sharing my screen. And Arun, do you want to share your screen or?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just remove this. And while you get your screen set up, in the meanwhile, let me go to Slido again. Guys, if you want to post your questions, please post them here on Slido, and we can take them here. Oh, there's one with 29 upvotes. Okay.
Okay.
A hotel with 10 rooms are available. 100 customers selected the room and clicked on payment at the same time. How does the system manage concurrency? So we are going to be handling this in the interview. If we don't handle it, then we'll let you know at the end of the interview. So, okay, let's take this later. How do we know which design pattern to use in LED questions? This we just answered a few minutes ago. How is room availability handled when two or more third-party booking systems are trying to book the same room at the same time? This is very similar to the first question, so I'll just take that along with that. Prices keep changing every moment in MakeMyTrip. It needs real-time price data from airline companies. How do we design a solution for this requirement? For MakeMyTrip, it's not that big a deal because you'll have, let's say, 1,000 updates per minute. Right? Flight prices do change, but they don't change second.
Yeah.
Right? This is
Yeah.
not a stock price or something. So even you don't even need WebSockets actually, or you can poll. You can directly poll. The number of flight providers are booked. Are
Right.
limited. How do people continuously see this? Well, in my experience, if you book a flight at a particular price and it turns out that the price is increased, you know what they do? They just fail the booking and send you back and say do it again. So it's
Yeah.
an optimistic kind of locking, very very optimistic. So that's how it goes. Okay, so that is taken care of. Uh, I'm just taking a couple of questions, Arun. Maybe you would like to take this one. How do we handle the consistency in different data centers? Example, booking.com may have data centers in the US and UK, and many customers want to book a particular or popular hotel. So the Indians come and they say that super luxury room of 1B for my wedding, please book that. And the Americans at the same time say the same thing, that I need this room for my party, like 1B. So two different databases. How are they going to come to a consensus, or how are they going to give this room to just one person?
So again, there would be a central database for sure, which would be the hotel or the, there would be a central data system, database, right? And both of them, both the third party, if you see, would be making call to the same database to fix it or to see if it is available or not. So now this again comes to the same first question, which we are seeing, that different systems are going, or there are more than 100 requests at the same time asking for the same room. So in that case, what we have to do is either the system will accept one of the requests, like let's say this request comes first and all the further requests comes later on. So what it can do is, that's why we have a Boolean variable as the return type, if you see in every fixed booking or cancel booking, that if a person, let's say A, has been booked, so it will show a different page, success page, or congratulations, or whatever the front end needs to handle for the success. And later on, let's say 99 have been failed. So we need to show them that, okay, this is already booked. This is how MakeMyTrip also handles, as I've seen the system. They just cancel it. They just show it that this is, you cannot book this. Go and try again. And then people will have.
Yeah, that makes total sense. You have one instance of the database that can be taken care of. Even if you have two instances, like you have one for the US and one for India, and these are totally separate and both are, primary databases, then what you can do is you can accept the orders. You can say, very good, 1B is booked by Gaurav, who's in India, and Arun also, who's in a separate city. Then you can call them up and say, I'm so sorry, your booking went through, but we have to cancel because the hotel had an issue.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? Nothing, right? So this is manual, also can be taken care of. A lot of us believe that these systems have to be extremely complex. Like one of the things that I recently learned from a professor at Cornell, actually, for data, is he was saying that you can go to 95% with probably 5% of the effort, and the last 5%, which is a lot of intelligence, just let a human handle that. You have a security guard in your building for that reason. You can have a complicated machine which is going to ask people its name and all that. Just take a CCTV camera, 95% of the problem is solved, 5% is remaining. You put a human being there. So, okay, this I think is a good point. Okay, any projects that are going on open source which can contribute? Is Golang good for coding LLD solutions that is not currently OOP based? I think we can skip language specific questions. How do we ensure concurrency while booking? This we are going to get to. For the system design you teach, is it a concept for same cloud and networking design? I don't know what this means. Yes, most of the designs we talk about are cloud based. Love to see MakeMyTrip bus reservation system with automatic seat reservation instead of user seat selection. Front window seat high priority, etc. Okay, so you're a priority based booking system. Does not seem much more complicated than what we have. Actually, ours seems more complicated because you have concurrency over there. When the system is booking, it's not going to have any concurrency. So that seems easier, but it's an interesting idea. How to ensure system is extensible to book train tickets as well in future? I think we don't have to make any changes. The train is extremely similar. Only thing is the train goes to multiple destinations. So the same train can be used for multiple, bookings. IRCTC design is something we are working on right now. But yeah, otherwise everything is the same. Thank you for the session. Can you design database also? No. Low-level design, we are not going to be talking about the database side of things. Actually, Arun, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so designing database comes high level. Which database do you need to use? What sort of calls it would make. This is not low level. This is high level. And for that, you can check out playlist of Gaurav. That's really helpful.
Okay, thank you. You sure can. You can watch it on InterviewReady for free, ad free, and with awesome quizzes and everything. So in case, let me actually plug that in. HTTPS InterviewReady.io. Yes, that's the place to learn low-level design, and also machine coding is over there, so that's useful. If MakeMyTrip and Booking.com both are booking same room, yeah, that's been handled. Same room is booked offline. Hey, thank you for the session. Yeah. How does LLD differ for a senior software engineering role versus an SD 1 or 2 role? What are the factors that an SSE should focus on more? Okay, Arun, do you want to take
So
this?
yeah. So like you said, first of all, the requirements increases, complexity of the question increases. So like you said, first 95% of the question is done in 5 minutes, and then later on 5% of the question is done in last 95 minutes. So so this is what happens. There are a few more complex requirements which a SSE will have to handle. For example, concurrency, let's say, would not be asked from SD1 or SD2, but it will definitely be asked from a senior software engineer.
Yeah.
Time complexity. For example, like we have taken in the class diagram, we took a list of flights for storing the flights, if you see, which could be, now the system would be fetching flights. So it will have to iterate on this complete list, which is time taking, of course. Now, a senior software engineer could be asked to optimize on, this time. A system should not take this much time. But whereas an SD1 or an SD2 might not be asked this question to optimize that much on time or that much on space.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Great. Okay. Brilliant. Actually, yeah, that's two very important parameters. The first one that you mentioned was concurrency. The second one was efficiency. And maybe if there is something, then that would be latency. Similar to efficiency, but one person should not wait for 10 seconds or 20 seconds. How do you make sure most requests go through? How do you, while reducing latency, can you also improve on throughput? Usually they are a trade-off. So
yes,
very interesting. Yeah, makes total sense. Awesome. Okay, I think the rest of the questions are things that will be answered while we are working on the code. So
yep.
yeah, I'll just. Oh wow. Okay, I wasn't sharing my screen also. Damn it. Okay. Sorry for that. Arun, do you want to share your screen? I'll just add it to the stream. Okay. Yeah, this is clean and nice.
Okay.
Would you like to zoom in a bit? I think my
Okay.
poor eyes. It's got this presentation mode, I think. So maybe in view. Yeah.
I don't know how to increase the font of it.
It might be this thing. If you go to view, right? It's got appearance. Is it? No. Enter presentation mode. I think that is one thing that works out. Yeah, it's much better, much clearer,
Yeah.
bigger. Although you won't have file access, but because you are coding in only one file, this is good.
Yeah. Right.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay.
So
No, just
should we
before we
start?
start, I wanted to say that guys, it's been 1 hour 15 minutes. In a real interview, Arun would not be so kind explaining every single thing he's doing. So
Yeah.
it would probably take him much less time to draw things out and just go ahead and explain things, right? As an interviewer, also, I would be rushing him a bit, but we are not doing that because we want you to understand everything, and then you can not just watch it right now live and ask your doubts, but also watch it at 2x later on when you're done. So that's the reason why we are going slow. Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Should we start, Gaurav?
Sure, yes.
Okay. So I'll be taking help of the class diagram which we had built before this. Okay.
Sure.
Now, for the first thing was the system. So let's make the class.
I think
Okay.
this is becoming an inner class.
Yeah, it is becoming an inner class. So I'm just writing everything in this one class, and just for simplicity. But this obviously would be different files.
Yeah,
So,
you can probably. I mean, I don't know if you want to just make it a class system outside. Yeah.
what we can do is we can remove it here.
Yeah. you can. It's going to say that rename the file.
Yeah. It will
Uh,
it will show
maybe
all these red lines which will not look good. What do you say?
yeah.
Should we just go ahead and
Outside.
write it?
Yeah. In fact, can you press Control Z once more? And yeah, this public class system, let's put it outside as a separate class and just remove the public part of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So this will be a yeah, under it or over it. Yeah, doesn't really matter. Okay. Let's remove public. Yeah.
Yeah.
This.
This. Yeah. So
Okay.
before going ahead, I would like to tell everyone that there's no barrier on the language. Of course, people can use any language, be it Java, JavaScript, C++, uh, any language you are comfortable in. This is mostly pseudocode because people generally don't have that much time left to write each and every function. So some of the functions could be pseudocode. Just write the signature of it and need not to define it. Okay.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So, okay, let's go ahead and start with system. So it will have a list of flights.
Yeah. So you're referring to the class diagram. Okay.
Yes. So I'm
Okay.
referring to the. So now, if you can see, there's a red mark shown here because we haven't really made class flight right now. That's why it's showing red. When we'll make flight, this red mark would go. Okay. Now, like we had discussed in the beginning, we were making the system class as a singleton class. So the way to make a singleton class is system. Okay. Constructor is always public. So I'm not defining constructor. We can leave it for now. Then for a singleton class, there needs to be a get instance function. This, if somebody is not aware of it, just go and read singleton's design pattern. You'll get to know. It's very simple. What would be the return type? It would be system again. Okay. So what we'll do is if system equals null, then we need to make a new system. And then we'll just return system. Okay. So this is first. Now the constructor part is done. Second is, if you see at the class diagram, the second thing was fetch flights. So we'll be able to make this function public. Return type would be flight. Now, what we were given is we were giving a source, destination,
And then you also had a
date.
I think in date. Yeah.
Okay, let's import this if we can. Okay, yeah, there is a date class already. Yeah. Okay. Now, what we can do is we need to just filter the flights which we want from these flights, right? So let's make a list which will have flight. Let's name it filtered flights. Okay. Yeah, right. So what we can do is we can iterate on this list and fetch accordingly. So
So Arun, do you want to actually code the flight class because it's basically coming up
yeah,
everywhere. So it's
yes,
probably indicated that coding flight is.
yes. So what we can do is we can just class flight. You can see all the red marks are gone and it is showing us a red mark on list because we haven't imported that class. I've just imported list and we are free of all the reds. right?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Now it compiles. See.
So, like we can see in the class diagram, a flight was having a date, a source, and a destination. This is how a class diagram helps, that we are simply able to straight away write the code. So, if flight dot, let's say, date, we can have it public equals this date, and then if a flight dot, let's say, source equals source, and then flight dot destination, then I think we need to pick this flight and put it into the list. Flight dot add. Okay. Now if you see, I haven't defined the flight which is having source, destination, and date. Once we give it, these red marks would go. Now if you see, we are also able to see a red mark here because we haven't returned. So if we'll just return filtered flights,
Yeah.
all the red marks are gone. And this is how our IDE actually helps. So if you can use any IDE during an interview, that would be awesome. So what you can do is you can straight away just ask the interviewer, but the interviewer would not give that much importance to these red marks actually. But if it is there, it would definitely help.
Makes sense. In fact, you can probably just, with that option enter, you can create fields also just looking at those red marks.
Yes. So if you see, it cannot resolve date. It is just showing me the option create a field date in the flight, and this is done. Same goes for click on source, and you'll get this option. Destination.
Right, so nothing like it here.
Yeah.
This is like GitHub Copilot, Just today I was watching a candidate using GitHub Copilot, and I was like,
Yeah.
You should. I mean, if you at InterviewReady, of course, we are always very like as real world as possible. So yeah, GitHub Copilot. Okay, let's try it out. Okay. But okay, so you're now able to return flights which are filtered on the date, source, and destination, and you are iterating over a list of flights that you have. Okay. Of course, you can optimize this using hash map and stuff like that, but we are focusing primarily on the structure of the class and how things are happening. Makes total sense.
Yes.
Okay.
Second function, if you see in the class diagram, was, if I remember correctly, it was, I can also see, it was fixed seats. Okay. So return type was Boolean. What you are getting is an aircraft. Now again, it will show a red mark because we haven't defined the class aircraft, which we will now. And of course, we are getting a seat. Now the seat will also give us a red mark because we haven't defined the class seat. But let's define it. No, we don't want a destination package. Let's define it right below. See, the red mark went away, and one more. Okay, this also went away. So we were having seats in the aircraft, if we see in the class diagram. So aircraft dot fix seat, and what we'll do is and seat was having a customer, right?
I'm just reading through the questions also at the same time. So I'm just seeing if there are any interesting questions from the audience in the Slido link. So yeah.
All these are, I'm just writing the basic functions which have been already talked about during the class diagram. Okay. Third one would be add flight, which our admin was able to do. What we'll get is a flight, and just add it to the list, okay, of flights and return true. So
yeah, we can skip this method. Arun, this is like Let's assume that
And-
flights exist
Yeah.
and are added
Okay.
somehow. Yeah. I mean, every admin function, let's just get rid of it because, yeah,
And
admins
the
are not people we are looking at.
fourth one was cancel a flight, which admin was able to do fully. So how we can handle it is, we'll first get a list of all the seats. Okay.
Right.
So aircraft was having a list of all the seats, right? And a flight has an instance of an aircraft. So
Yeah. In fact, Arun, this thing also, I mean, I get where you're coming from. You're saying that, what if a flight is cancelled? We have to get all the seats in that flight and then cancel them. So
yes,
let us assume that this is rather straightforward. Whatever is happening
Yeah.
on the admin side of things, we can get
Right.
rid of.
Okay.
Right? We are
So-
focusing mainly on cancelling seat or fixing a seat and stuff like that.
Okay. So I think the system class is then done, because in the class diagram also we took care of all these things.
Okay.
Let's complete our flight class now. These were the
Okay.
3 things which were required above, but we can. So date is there, source is there, destination is there. We didn't add an aircraft, so let's add it. Again, how am I doing it? Just by looking at the class diagram. It was having a start time and an end time. So public time, let's say start time. I think we'll have to import time class. Just import it. Right. Okay. So now I'm imagining that there's a constructor available, and getters and setters for all of them are already there. Okay.
Okay.
So just, and we'll pass in the arguments. What would be the arguments? Of course, date would be there, source would be there, destination would be there, everything would be there. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Second thing, if we see, was cancel for a customer. What we got was a customer seat. Okay. Now, like every flight has an instance of aircraft, right? And aircraft will have an instance of seats. So, like above, we were doing it here. We'll again fetch it here. We can iterate on the seats, and we can cancel it.
Okay.
So, right, for this is how we iterate on a map, right? Okay. Now, if let's say this seat dot get customer is equals my current customer, then what we can do is this customer can be set to null, and the is booked field which we have can just be straight away set to 0, because now the seat is no more available to that customer and could be sold again. So
Okay.
dot.
In fact,
We will
Arun,
have
do you want the
is booked
is
field.
booked? Yeah. Do you really care? Like, should a seat have that?
I don't think a seat can. This could straight away be handled by customer, so we can
It
remove
could
that
be
field
handled
as
by
well.
the client also. Yeah.
So
I mean, maybe you can have a map of. You need some sort of mapping of which customer has which seat.
So for that, I right now I've just iterated over the seats, and I thought of it. Why? Because an aircraft will have a limited number of seats only.
Yeah.
50, 60, 100. That would not take much time by the system, I feel.
That is true. So in a flight, do you want to keep a list of seats? Is that how you would go about it?
So I have put it in the aircraft actually. Aircraft is having a list of seats.
Okay, so
But
for every
we can
flight,
have-
you have a separate aircraft. Okay.
But we can have a list of seats in the flight also.
Got it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. Okay. So these all things, if I see the class diagram, a flight was able to do, a flight class
Okay.
would. We can straight away move to the aircraft class now.
Yeah.
If we see the class diagram, two more classes are left, aircraft and a seat class, right? So like we discussed in the class diagram, it is having a map of seats, right?
Okay. Okay.
Then, of course, constructor I'm imagining is there, right? Aircraft was able to fix a seat. What it will get is a seat S, let's say, and a customer C. Okay, so S dot set customer, just that's it, and we can return true. Of course, now if you have got an array of seats, let's say you have got 6 seats, so you can iterate on all the seats and then you can fix it.
Got it.
Right?
Got it. Okay. So you're setting a customer. Basically, you're doing seats dot put.
Yes.
For this, put this customer.
Yeah.
Roughly
Next.
that. Yeah.
Now the next one was if you want to add a few seats into the aircraft. So for that,
This is an admin function again, I think, Arun.
Yes.
I think let's get rid of it. We don't care about admin functions here.
Okay. And then there would be get seats, which is a getter function for this. So sorry,
Perfect.
I write ID here. This is string.
Yeah, it's a string. Oh, okay, perfect. Oh, this is a. It doesn't know that Java has an app. Okay.
So seat class is left now.
Right. This is almost like an enum, I think.
Yeah. Yes. So first of all, we can provide an enum seat.
Okay.
Let's put
This is
it.
Like
So what were the type of seats which we are having? Let me
we
check.
had that emergency one where you get the instructions every time.
Okay.
And maybe let's just keep 2 so that the concept is clear. Normal or standard.
Okay.
Yeah, the luxury seats where you get grapes on.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and.
Okay, so this has a seat type. Okay.
Yes. Type. Then of course it will have a ID.
Okay. That's also, I guess.
Then of course it will have a customer.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Do we want to keep the customer mapping here?
A seat will always belong to a customer only.
Not necessarily. What if it's empty?
Okay. So if it's empty, then we can put it null.
Correct. So what we are doing now is we are storing customer information, that mapping of which customer has, or rather this seat belongs to which customer, if I ever need to ask the seat that. I don't think that is happening. I don't think at any point in time I'll be asking the seat, who's your customer? We always have an idea who the customer for a particular seat is. I mean,
so actually, why I use this is in a plane. Suppose you are checking out a flight, right?
Yeah.
So in that flight, if you see the system requirement, you mentioned that we should be able to see which seats are already booked and which seats are left, so that people only click on those seats, right?
Correct.
So for that I am having a customer field here that when I would be iterating on all the seats, I would be showing a certain different color for the seats which are booked, and a different color for.
That's a good idea. Yeah, it probably solves that problem.
Yes. So, and last one, okay, let's keep it price.
There's someone who's asking an interesting question. Can we have a map of customer to seat? to take care of that problem also. But yeah, we can have multiple solutions to the same problem. Let's just go ahead with this now, which makes sense. Oh, you have price also for that seat. Okay, so this is per flight. Okay, the seat per flight.
So yeah.
Okay.
So I feel these are the things which seat class was having, and of course there would be getters and setters for all of them, which we have imagined, right? Two more classes are left, which is class user, customer, and admin class. Should we go ahead and make it?
Admin class, we can make it. Let's ignore it because we are not really getting into the depth of it. Which other class were we talking about?
First one was the user class, which was extended by the customer class.
Let us also ignore it because we have spoken at a high level what it's going to be doing. It's going to be extracting those, data members. So let's ignore that. Let's just assume there's one type of user.
Okay. So should I go ahead and write the customer class, or because other than that everything is done?
Oh, okay, yeah. Let's just write the customer class because it's like pretty critical.
Okay. So.
And then all the compile errors go away and we deploy to prod immediately.
Yeah. So of course it will have. Let's give it ID just for now, and let's give it just email.
Yeah. Do we need anything else? No, right?
No, I think it will have an instance of system, of course.
Okay, yeah. Do we really need the instance of system also?
So, of course, our customer is able to book the tickets. He's able to see. So he will make a call to the system, right? To the APIs exposed by the system.
Right. So, yeah, that's one way. Yeah.
So that's why
in Java there's a concept. There's this concept of a class object also. So maybe the system can be, if everything in it is static, then there is only one object that will be created for that system.
Yes.
And all its members can also be, data members can also be static, functions can also be static. So it becomes just one thing. So it becomes a singleton that way.
Yes.
But yes. I think you are explaining the point of what is a singleton quite well. So that's why you are making sure that it is a singleton. Okay.
Yes.
True.
So of course I'm imagining constructor is there. So what were the two things that a customer was able to do? He was able to fix a seat.
Okay.
Okay. What will it do for fixing a seat? He will select a flight, and then he would tap on a seat, right?
Right.
So these two would be the data members, like we had already discussed in the class diagram, right? And of course, he can go ahead and fix. So let's say, because he is having an instance of flight, and flight will give us aircraft, and in aircraft we already have a function fix seat, which will take a seat. And of course, the customer is this only.
Okay. Yeah, this clarifies things.
And return true.
Okay.
Okay. Now, second thing is cancel the booking.
Okay. Yeah, I think the fixed seat came out really simple.
And using this only, I'll show you how that problem of concurrency will also be solved. Just give me a moment. Everyone's doubt should be clear right here.
Oh my
God.
God.
For cancelling the booking flight, okay, so we just need to call the function. Again, it was flight.cancel.
Why is this?
Sorry.
Okay, even I missed that. Yeah.
Cancel for customer and just pass this.
Okay. What if there is? Yeah. What about concurrency here? Well, yeah, I guess you can
explain both the things here.
Sure.
Explain both the things here. So now, if you see, like we had discussed, suppose there could be other issues also. There could be something at the server going on. Server might have crashed, or whatever issue could come. Why am I taking Boolean, or why am I returning Boolean right here? Like I said in the beginning, we can return a Boolean right here if somebody has somebody's seat is booked, we would show congratulations, and somebody's seat is not booked, we can go and ask him and show him whatever message we want to show, right? So if you see this fixed seat function here is a boolean, right? And we are returning true over here. Suppose we return false, which we'll do if the seat is not booked. In that case, we'll handle it in a separate way. So what we can do is boolean, let's name a variable is booked. Now suppose if the flight is booked, we can return true here, else we can return false. Okay. Now front end can use this data, true or false, to show what they want to show, a success or a failure.
Okay.
Right? But this is how we generally solve concurrency, because in MakeMyTrip also I've seen this, that when I was trying to book a plane ticket for a seat which I have selected, now let's say I make it take me 2 or 3 minutes to fill my card details or to make payment, and in that meantime somebody has already booked the ticket or somebody else's payment has been done, so it would show me a failure. So how this failure is shown, this would come as false to me, and then accordingly front end can handle.
So when you say fixed seat, it will return a true or a false. Let's go to fixed seat, that method.
Yeah.
How does it know whether the seat has been booked? Like,
so here also we'll have to do the same thing. We are setting the set customer over here, right? And this set customer, we can put it as a boolean variable. So in set customer, we'll first check if it is right now null or not. So before setting the customer, if s dot get customer is not equal to null, which means somebody else is already fixed, so we can return false. Otherwise, we can go ahead and set the customer.
Do you see any race condition here? What if two threads come, see get customer, and say that, oh, okay, customer is null. So let me go and set the customer. So two people go ahead. So how do you avoid that?
So what we can do is we can lock it. So it's the same as the locking mechanism which we have. But I think these questions would be asked if, like people in the beginning asked, what would be the difference to a question that would be asked to a senior software engineer and to a SD1 or SD2. This is the main difference. Now we are going into the depth of it. Like you said, race condition. Senior software engineer will have to answer all of this. I don't think these questions would be asked to somebody who is preparing for just fresh out of college or having 2, 3, 4 years of experience.
Right, that's right. Yeah, you're looking at object definitions and breakdown of classes, and primarily when it comes to SD1 and SD2. Okay, so but like you answered it very clearly. You either take a lock or you synchronize it. You force some sort of locking in the method itself. So you either lock on code through synchronize, or you lock on the data type by taking a lock on S, which is the seed.
Yes.
Or finally you enforce ordering, like you force them all to run in the same thread. So these are the three methods that we have when it comes to booking one resource by multiple people at the same time. So I think that takes care of almost all of the concurrency issues that you have. You have just three solutions: lock the code, synchronized; lock the data type, which is a lock, and otherwise you use ordering. Okay, yeah. Problem solved. The question which got 32 upvotes is now solved. Okay, cool. So this sets up. I mean, this takes care of everything actually. Basically, seed dot set customer get customer. Do you want to just create that method so that you get rid of the compile errors?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, just let's. It should be
this
a function.
Just a getter function. Yeah, this is just a getter, right?
Yeah, maybe you can use the ID. You can put that. This is a function. No, it's going to turn into a field. It's instead a function.
Oh, this has converted this to a public variable. actually.
Yeah, because there are no brackets to get customer in line number 66.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. This will now solve the problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what we can do is return customer,
Yeah.
and same this is the setup function.
Right. Yeah. Okay, and you pass in a customer. Wonderful. Maybe on line 88 you want to see if it is not null, then you just return boolean. Get customer.
Yes. And we'll set the customer here.
Yeah, most of the compilers are taken care of. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, this actually solves, I think, the whole question is solved now. We have uh, a customer can make bookings, can cancel bookings, can view a set of flights. The way it's able to do this is by using the system, which gives it a set of flights given a source, destination, and date. Okay. Now, also, as a customer, you can cancel a booking or reserve a booking, and you're using the system again. We did not go to admins because we didn't want to. This is tedious and useless actually to talk about in an interview. You can talk about it in the requirements, but yeah, not in the code. So that's good. Okay. There are a few questions which are there on the chat. I'll just pick probably some interesting ones. One of them, two of them are similar. Sandeep and Raghu Ganpati are both asking the same thing. Can we have a decorator pattern for seats? And why did we tightly couple seat and customer? Won't you ideally have a wrapper around it? So they don't want a direct reference of the seat to the customer. Can there be some sort of a mapping somewhere else, or some sort of a class which is handling this mapping? That's their question. So in an
So
interview scenario, of course, it's easier to think in hindsight. But yeah, sorry, Arun, go ahead.
no, again, I would say the same thing. In an interview, you do not have time that much to, optimize on stuff. But what an interviewer looks from the top is if you are able to think right. The main stuff was singleton. If you are able to, think of the singleton pattern over here, But yeah, for seats and for customer, we can have this discussion. Go on, and whatever there would be pros and cons for each and everything.
Makes sense. So Raghu Ganpati and Sandeep, these are excellent pointers. We just don't. We didn't have the, let's say, time to pick on this, because like this code can be improved a lot. Always. That's always true for every interview. Even in prod, there is code which can be improved. So that's good. Okay. What's the rationale? Okay. Do we need to synchronize the method for selecting the seat? Yeah. That has been discussed. LLD also contains ER diagram. How are you going to normalize your database? No, I don't think LLD contains an ER diagram. Arun, is that a right assumption from my side? Do they ask for ER diagrams also? I mean, you have made a class diagram. It makes
Yeah, which is similar to a ER diagram also.
yeah.
Because we discussed about relations, we discussed about what one to many, many to one, whatever relations we are having. So I think the interviewer generally would get impressed by this only. And of course, if you notice, how much time did you take to code? Like I was explaining, but if you see using the class diagram, since I had everything in the front and I was quickly able to write all the functions.
Okay. Yeah, that is true. And in fact, that saved you a lot of time. And the thought, you had to think once and code once instead of thinking 50 times and coding, coming back and doing iterations. Because you had a class diagram, because you had a use case diagram to create that class diagram, it was a smooth flow. And as an interviewer, it was easy for me to understand. Okay, there's this question. Kindly make a structured course on low level design and high level design. I'll just share you a link. Like, I don't know. Yeah, here it is. InterviewReady.io. Just head there. It's a very structured course on system design. The benefits are it is condensed, so all the information that you see is already available on YouTube and blogs. All of us know that. But which information is useful? So curating it. What kind of information should you know? Condensing it. And then how do you learn it in a structured, organized way? How do you go from A to Z? Not P first, and then Q comes in, and then Z comes in, and then there's A also a little bit structured. So you can use this, and I think one of the coupon codes you can use. So let me just check which coupon code is working. Hello World is a coupon code, which is pretty good. That will be a Hello World to system design. Okay, let's go for the highest upvoted again instead of the newest. Should booking be separate classes? Book seat should be part of booking service and not customer service.
Yes, we can make it separate also.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Okay, that's a good idea, Anonymous. That can be done. How much of this is practical, Arun? Like a lot of things can be done, but at what time? So somebody has mentioned this also. How do I know whether my solution is good enough? Not the best on the planet, not something that Linus Torvalds will say, wow, just give me that pull request. How do you know that this is a good enough solution for an interview?
Okay, that's a great question actually. So now if you see, generally an interview is for 1 hour, right? And the interviewer is, first of all, we are not designing everything. We are just speculating things, right? So here in 1 hour, when we were making the class diagram and when we were deciding stuff, there only generally the question answer thing happens with the interviewer actually asks you stuff and you generally answer it. If the interviewer is having any issue, generally those are cleared there and then, right? And then when you go ahead and write the code, interviewer generally don't ask, because if he would have had any problem, he would have asked during the, when you were making the class diagram. So that's why what my assumption is, it take 5 to 10 minutes while building the use case diagram, because what you do is you just read the requirements, system requirements, which were given to you by the interviewer. You go ahead and make the class diagram using the use case diagram which you have built, and you can devote, let's say, 30 minutes in building the class diagram, and there could be a number of discussions with you and your interviewer. And then, of course, the last 15 to 20 minutes, you can go ahead and write the code, which we also took here, right? So generally, we are not looking, the interviewer also is not looking for you to make my trip right here so that he can go ahead and use it. No, you cannot do that.
No, there's another question. Arbish has asked an interesting question. Are you going to be running this code and making sure things are working? No. There's a difference between low-level design and there's a difference between machine coding. In machine coding, yes, you want the code to run and you want to discuss a lot on how is this going to work engineering-wise. Here, it's important to remember, guys, it's taken us about 1 hour, 50 minutes. Of course, we are going slow for you, but in the real world also, it will take you, because you'll see this question for the first time, it will take you 1 hour. So over there, don't expect that you are going to create MakeMyTrip right there. Expect that you will be having more discussions, and the ID will give you compile errors. And if you don't use an ID, then it will look nice and clean, but actually it doesn't work. The code won't run. So in fact, Arun, do you want to expand on that?
Yeah. So even here, many, like Gaurav said, don't look at the admin side of it. This is what happens in the real interview also. Interviewer, when he has asked all his questions, when he's clear with what the flow would be, when he's done, he would not ask you to write all these functions. For example, if you would have seen, I have written full functions. Interviewer will never ask you to write full functions. For example, you are just iterating on the list to fetch the flights. He would not ask you. And since you would not write it, the code would not run.
Makes sense.
So most of it is just like that only. Discussion.
Exactly. You don't have a constructor written. How is this class going to run? The interviewer does not care. They know that you can write a constructor. That much they know after you have broken down things into classes and variables, and you're talking about concurrency and everything. So if you want to test their coding skills, take a dynamic programming interview. Know what you're doing with the low-level design interview. So the intents are different. Your coding, your testing, nobody cares about that here much, unless they are unreasonable. That is when they will go like, no, show me everything. Build, make my trip. I'm sitting in front of you. Let's do this. So okay. Now what do we have? If I book multiple seats in 2 different transactions in the same flight, don't we need booking IDs to cancel those seats of particular transaction? Yeah, we need a booking ID most likely. Yeah. Actually, you need a set of seats that you need to cancel. We have assumed it's a single seat. A fixed seat, flight seat date shouldn't be considered date as well for the user is expecting to book on that date. No, we have a flight which has the date. Okay, why cancel if we are booking? Okay. Okay, Taslima Sheikh is asking, do different services, mobile application, mobile browser, computer website matter in terms of system design, or is it only related to the UI component? The backend of it, Arun, what do you think?
So, we generally show a lot more content on a website, which we can show on a mobile app, right? So definitely there is some difference in the mobile APIs as well as the website APIs, or but of course the website APIs can be used for mobile APIs also. But why would you want to send more response when you are only using very less? So generally we make separate APIs, but yeah, of course they can be used.
Okay, do you tell in the API itself that hey, my user agent is mobile, or yeah, I mean that would be one way to handle it, or you can say paginated, like give me just the first 5 results instead of 500. So that could also probably work.
Yeah,
There
but
is,
that would come in system requirements only.
yeah, exactly, yeah. There's also this question which is very similar to that. How do I know before designing the architecture of the application what are the prerequisites for it? What are the kinds of requirements that are expected to know before designing? I think just go to the start of this video and watch Arun break down the requirements. It's a clear explanation of how you can do this, right? Booking a seat so that, yeah, this has been handled. Would it be better to have a booking class or keep flight to seat? Okay, we have talked about this also. Make a structured course on low-level design and high-level design. Yes, for that. Where's the plug? Yes. And you have Hello World. Do try it out. Okay, so this is also handled. Do we have different devices? This is Taslima Sheikh. Krishna, what is the standard time you'll be using for booking international? I don't really know. That's a product question. Like if someone book flight and they want to change the date of flight, how will this happen? Just cancel and rebook it. That's what happens in the real world also. I mean, you should try booking a flight sometime. You guys will see, or even booking a train or canceling a train. They are so simple in their system. They are like, okay, I'll do it for you. There's a human talking to you, right? I'll do it for you. They cancel it and then they're like, okay, now make a payment. The refund will come to you later, and I'll charge you some extra fee for as a service or something. So it's that simple. Cost of flight booking, yes, we mentioned this will be there in the booking, maybe in the seat, but ideally it will be in a flight booking, so this is taken care of. Kindly make a structured course, yeah, that's also taken care of. So all Slido questions handled, awesome. We spoke about the system design problem for a really long time, 2 full hours. So hopefully it was useful to you guys. And it was a very well structured breakdown of the problem from requirements to a use case diagram to a class diagram to finally code. So thank you so much, Arun, for doing this, and thank you for coming here and making this happen, giving us your time and so much effort. Any last words before we book a flight or something?
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for inviting. It was a great discussion, and this is generally the strategy which I follow, and I love sharing the strategy. I hope people get their interviews cleared, and they should give me something when they clear the interview. I hope so. But yeah,
Yeah.
great discussion.
Arun, in fact, you are available on LinkedIn. Arun Goel. If you want, you can share your. I think I'll add your LinkedIn profile in the description. If you want to connect with Arun around system design or low-level design, please feel free. Arun and I are also working on something which is quite interesting. It's around low-level design, so hopefully that will be out sometime soon. If you want notifications on that, just go up to InterviewReady, sign up, and we'll when it's ready, we'll send you a mailer. Of course, we'll also make announcements on every possible platform, banging the drums. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you for spending 2 hours, guys. This has been amazing. You have been a very patient audience, and I'm seeing that all of you are still here. Brilliant, amazing. Thank you. And we'll continue making low-level design videos for you. We'll continue discussing different topics. So if you are interested in that, please feel free to subscribe. Until next time, then, see you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, guys.
Yeah.